Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Derek. Welcome back. Today's February 23rd, 2019. I did 3 videos this morning prior to recording this live stream. This one's going to be a little different. It's going to go on a little longer. I am going to cover some of the news by the numbers stories that I did not do videos on previously this week. I also made 6 videos on Tuesday, so if you haven't seen those, feel free to check them out. But what I'm also going to be talking about in this video is the organic side of the matrix. It's no secret to my viewers that I am a proponent of the ideology that there is something called the organic matrix. And think about how the word matrix has the same root word as the word gematria or gematria. And after a couple years of studying this very closely, paying attention to things in my life, there's no doubt in my mind that we are in some sort of organic matrix where the numeric values of words, phrases, names, dates appear to be significant and have something to do with the experiences that we uncover. And, when I started this work, everything was a conspiracy theory. I thought all of this numerology was being done by the occult, the elites in control. I still think a lot of the news that we see is very much that. However, based on things that have happened in my own life, my observations, there is definitely something going on in this world. And a lot of what we're looking at in the news, I believe, is definitely happening organically. A lot of it, on the other hand, is also trash that's being done by the numbers by people. And the reason I've continued this work and worked so feverishly to get the word out there about Gematria is in hopes of expanding my own personal experience. Back in the year 2017, I did a video on the deaths of Darren Dalton and Don Baylor. This all happened the same weekend that the Phillies played the Rockies, and those are the 2 men that those teams were most closely associated with. A man who claimed to be the best friend of Darren Dalton then reached out to me through email, and I wound up having a conversation with him on Skype for over an hour, and I have every reason to believe that this man did know Darren, and he was very consistent in his stories. I consider myself a good judge of people in that sense. And, Darren Dalton was definitely sick, definitely had cancer, and was in bad health, and he happened to die by the numbers. Darren Dalton also wrote a book about numerology and shared some of his more bizarre experiences in life. Things like astral travel, time travel, very bizarre things that, his friend that I spoke with actually had discouraged him from releasing that book in fear of what it would do to his public image. And although he was right, ultimately he agrees that Darren did the right thing by releasing that book. So after that conversation, I started to look at things differently, and I wanted to have a better understanding of what's really happening in this world. I understand now that there's a geometric element to the universe through numbers, which operate as symbols. This past week was, another enlightening. I had another enlightening exchange with someone in regards to a post I made regarding the death of the man in Syracuse who was hit by Jim Boeheim. So let's talk about. Now, in my last video, I mentioned that I think that the Jim Boeheim incident, where it said that he killed a pedestrian on the interstate, I do think that really happened. There is video of a damaged car on the interstate being taken away. Well, let me start with the organic numerology that I found very strange. So let me look at my post with Jim Boeheim. In this post, I mentioned the kill code. The word kill in Gematria equals 44. Jim Boeheim was born in the year 44 on the date leaving 44 days in the year. This incident occurred on a Wednesday, which is the only date that sums to 44 in any of the 4 base methods. Also, kill equals 17 in reduction. This incident occurred 17 days after Super Bowl 53. The name Jim Boeheim equals 53 in reduction. So to me, this was some pretty interesting stuff. Now, this is where it gets kind of weird. For some reason, it dawned on me to run the Gematria on the headline that I wrote. Now, you'll often see that I take the Gematria from a news headline, put it in the calculator, and find that there's significant numbers relevant to the story, as I did here. But this is what tripped me out. I copied and pasted my headline into the calculator, and look what came up. 404 and 170. Just like the word kill. Kill, 44 and 17. And I thought to myself, this is really a strange coincidence, right? And I started to think, is this phrase the reason why we got this story in the first place? I mean, you know, my headlines, I just kind of write a quick blurb that's usually short enough to stay on one line. I basically summarize the news headline, right? So I just wrote this on a whim, and it came out with these numbers, and that kind of blew my mind. Now, I made this post on February 21st. On this date, I was 404 months and 17 days old. Isn't that crazy? Like, this is pretty bizarre. So after I ran the numbers on my age, I was like, okay, I did something very organic there with Gematria, right? I wrote a story with the kill code. I wrote a headline with the kill numbers, and my age was the killed numbers. I couldn't believe it. This is the kind of thing that spooks you out. Well, then, on one of my videos recently, someone read my posts about Jim Boeheim and commented on a video I made about something else. I won't say his name because he did delete his comment because it had his phone number in it. This guy reached out to me and said he has information on the death of Jorge Jimenez, and it's very rare for someone to actually reach out and tell me that they know someone who was in the story that I did a post about. This is really only the second or third time it's happened. So, coupled with the fact that I had this organic synchronicity, which I didn't post about, I just kept this to myself, really. And then I had someone reach out to me saying they knew the person and that he did definitely die. This subscriber of mine, who's been a follower of my work for quite some time, I guess, he apparently worked with the guy who was killed and to this day was still friends with his neighbor. And he said, you know, everything happened as it was reported. This guy who died was in a car with friends. They got in an accident on the freeway. They all got out of the car, and then the guy got hit by Jim Boeheim. So to me, I've seen no evidence that this is a hoax. I mean, yeah, we have the numbers, but I have an understanding that these numbers will occur regardless. You know, even if someone dies in real life, there will be a heavy numerical riddle behind it. And I have no doubt that that is occurring, that that exists. So this death appears to be just that. What's so strange about this is that this incident with Jim Boeheim striking Jorge Jimenez was numerically synced up with the Zion Williamson injury that occurred earlier that day. Now, it's my belief that the Zion Williamson injury was not the result of organic numerology. Think about the fact that this injury occurred just 30 seconds into the game. So, if Zion Williamson's shoe was purposefully rigged so that it would break, he wouldn't have to play much basketball before it did. It happened only 30 seconds into the game. So it's my belief that he went out there with a shitty shoe to begin with. That whole Zion Williamson thing happened by the numbers, and if you don't know the numerology of it, please see my last video on my channel where I talk about the Jim Boeheim incident and Zion Williamson. So what I've been observing is that it's as if the elites are executing numeric rituals, and then after these numeric rituals are carried out, then something happens organically by the numbers. This seems to be my observation, and I mean, it's consistent with what I've seen in the past. Think about the injury from Gordon Hayward of the Celtics. I'll pull up my posts on Gordon Hayward's leg injury. This injury happened on the 17th day of the month in the year 2017. Gordon Hayward, whose name sums to the 17th triangular number, was born on a date with 17 numerology. He wore number 20, which had Gematria of 107. The date on which he injured his leg had numerology of 17. He was exactly 10,070 days old, and the injury we were told he had sums to 1007 in Jewish Gematria. Now, leading up to this injury, there was a numeric ritual involved with the signing of his contract with the Boston Celtics. He signed by the numbers, July 4th. I guess just go ahead and type Gordon Hayward Gematrinator into Google and you'll see my post. But this was definitely a real injury. It 100% was legit. He wasn't faking his broken leg. Everybody saw it happen. But it's my belief that this leg broke because of the numeric ritual that was done regarding his signing with the Celtics. So is this the truth about what we're seeing? Are we experiencing essentially magic occurring as the result of numeric rituals that are being carried out in front of the public consciousness, so to speak? Seems like that's what's happening. And I know that's going to be a controversial thing, or I don't really think it should be controversial. I think if I were to sit here and claim that everything we're seeing is actually organic, that would be controversial, because that would be me doing a complete 180 on what I've been saying this entire time, which is that the elites, the dark occult, so to speak, are doing these things intentionally. So again, I think it's a mix. I think we're seeing intentional things done, and then we're seeing something happen as the result of that in real life. I don't know how better to explain it, but that's my take. Speaking of the organic matrix, I find it interesting that Google did a Google Doodle on Steve Irwin. And Steve Irwin was one of my more important decodes of last year. And the reason I say that is because it clued me in onto something that's definitely happening as far as how they're using these numbers and dates. So the name Steve Irwin equals 126 in the reverse order. Steve Irwin was the son of the founders of the Australia Zoo. Of course, Steve Irwin, one of the more famous Australians. Australia's national holiday is called Australia Day, and it's celebrated on January 26th, written 1/26, or 26/1, a number that Steve Irwin's full name has a connection to. Steve Irwin died 144 days before 126, and these are the two numbers in his ordinal gematria. So once I found this out, I started using people's gematria, converting them to dates, measuring, and then realizing this was happening all the time. So my murder by numbers decodes became a little more complicated, but a little more clear. I started to figure out that there was probably some sort of formula going on here. And again, I've never predicted anyone's death. I have predicted the date on which we'd get a major celebrity sacrifice, and last year I was very successful in predicting those dates. All 4 dates I made major predictions for. Well, 3 of them we had celebrity deaths on that date. Dolores O'Riordan, Avicii, XXXTentacion. The other date, we had the funeral of David Astori, one of the more popular athlete deaths of 2018. So I feel like this information can lead to people making predictions. It's just a matter of having enough data and enough engineering behind it to figure it out. So Steve Irwin equals 144, dying 144 days before 126. Well, from the date of my blog post on Steve Irwin, which was November 12th of last year, to the date that they posted the Google Doodle on his birthday, look at this. It was 14 weeks and 4 days. So this is something I would call, part of the organic matrix. It was also a span of 103 days. The name Stephen Robert Irwin equals 103 in reduction. Remember, they said he was killed by a stingray, which equals 103. Not only was it 103 days, but it was also 3 months and 11 days. The inverse of 311 is 113. Stingray equals 113. The crocodile hunter in English extended equals 1130. And his death fell exactly 113 months after the debut of his show, The Crocodile Hunter. So this to me is an example of how the organic matrix works. You know, I'm drawn to make a post about somebody on a certain date, and then it lines up with the date that, you know, his name and face is projected back into the public consciousness. At least it seems to be that's what's going on. I noticed there's not a whole lot of people in the chat. This is partly because this is already my 4th live stream today. So I did plan on checking in on the chat here once in a while. Just a comment from Rico saying that it's the stuff that we're seeing that does happen organically is going to happen organically whether or not anyone's doing a numeric ritual before it. That may very well be. Is it your belief, Rico, then, that whoever's planning out these rituals are doing it because they know what's going to happen and then construct the rituals in numeric alignment with it? You know what I mean? Or do they do stuff with the intention of something happening and then it happens? You know what I mean? So, again, these are all interesting questions, and unless we're all paying attention to what's happening around us and trying to figure this out, we'll never figure it out, because this knowledge that we're hacking into, so to speak, is occulted. This is what's being kept in the secret societies at high levels. So I talked about how I wrote this headline, right? That summed to 404 and 170 in a story that was regarding the word kill. And then I was 404 months and 17 days old. Well, this isn't the only time recently that a measurement like this has proved relevant. I want to point to a post I made last week. This was a post I had in my Organic Matrix section. It was about me losing patience with some friends of mine. You know, some friends in my personal life, they definitely understand that what I'm looking at is not bullshit. They see that there is 100% something going on. They don't necessarily agree as to the cause of what's happening. You know, there's different ideas about this, and those discussions are some of my favorite. However, some of my friends are totally in the dark about what I'm talking about, and they either don't believe it, they don't buy it, they think that what I'm finding is a coincidence. They think that, oh, you can do anything with numbers, which is clearly a bunch of crap for anyone who's studied this like I have for multiple years at this point. So I made a post about the Mars rover landing. And what's so interesting about the Mars rover landing, first of all, Mars equals 57 in reverse ordinal. The word rover equals 57. And then if you combine the words Mars rover, it sums to 57 with the S exception. And then that Mars rover, which recently just was declared dead, that declaration came exactly 5,700 days after the rover was launched. So I was like, look, guys, they're faking outer space crap again. And everyone's like, oh, you're just coming up with crap. You can do anything with numbers. And I was like, you guys got to be kidding me. You know, you probably believe the moon landing too. And of course they do. And I just got frustrated. I was like, if these people don't care about what I'm sharing, if they can't see it, then it's not worth my time to continue sharing it with them. So I left the WhatsApp group. It was kind of an overreaction, but, I was having a rough week. There's been some other things going on in my personal life that Haven't gone as planned lately, so, I was having a bad day, and I just left. And then it occurred to me how funny the date was. This all happened on February 14th, which is written 14/2. Here I was trying to talk to them about Gematria, which equals 142. This number is the ordinal value of my name, Derek Tikori, 142. I thought that was interesting. But this whole thing was regarding the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. In fact, when I went home later that day, I made a post on the moon landing from 1969. National Aeronautics and Space Administration equals 441. On the date that I made a big stink about NASA and left the WhatsApp group and then went home and made a post on the moon landing, look how old I was. 404 months and 10 days old. And again, I was not aware of my age when I woke up that morning and learned about NASA and made that big stink. This all just flippin' happened by the numbers organically. So, again, it's not that everything we're seeing in the news is part of the organic matrix, but I'm trying to tell you guys, this stuff, a lot of what we're experiencing is absolutely happening by the numbers. Earlier I addressed Rico's question. Just want to follow up with him. His belief is that this is all the universe and that it's not necessarily ritualistically related. And as far as being able to predict this through astrology, I personally don't have my own experiences as far as, understanding and making predictions on astrology. I don't observe it enough. I will say that my astrology is really, really interesting. For one, remember how I said that my name sums to 142, right? Just like Gematria. And that's not even the whole thing. Like, my first name, Derek, 43, 92, and 29. Look at numbers. 43, 92, 29. Also 97, the 25th prime number. My name equals 25. My last name equals 99 and 90, which is the same as letters, 99 and 90. And then my name combined equals Gematria. And I learned this all after I built the Gematria app and the website. I had no idea that I was coded with these numbers. And here I am bringing Gematria to the masses with the Gematrinator calculator. Are you kidding me? This is wild stuff. Now, since I got into this work, I've had the fortune of having many people reach out to me and talk to me about their own stories, and some of them are numerology related, but others are astrological, because obviously astrology is another significant part of this whole mysticism code that we're trying to tap into. Now, the word Gematria in the alphabetic order equals 74. On my birthday, the sun reached the 74th degree on the ecliptic. Or shit, was it the 233rd? I get the sun and the moon mixed up. Tell you what. I'm going to open up Stellarium for you guys, and we're just going to look at my birth chart. Because not only are the numbers of the sun and moon on the ecliptic apparently relevant, but the positions of the sun and moon were also really interesting. Okay. So, change some of these options here. It's going to take me a second because I don't use this app all the time, so I don't really know everything off the top of my head. All right. So let's go to my date of birth. June 4th, 1985. I was born at 6:31 a.m. So, what we're looking at now is the sky when I was born. And what I love about the sun is look at how the sun is sitting directly between the bullhorns of Taurus. To me, this is pretty cool, you know? Here I am, like, telling myself I'm going at war with the elite, trying to expose their code. And I got right in between the bullhorns here. So, my sun was at the 73rd degree on the ecliptic. So it was not at the 74th, but by the end of the day, the sun was at the 74th degree. And in Gematria, the word Gematria equals 74, just like English 74. However, it was 73, so I'm not going to cheat you there. But let's go around and look at the moon. Now, I was born the day after a full moon, which shouldn't come as any surprise to someone who knows me personally. A long time ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which to me is a large gray area disease. It's just that I'm really, really productive. And sometimes I'm not so productive, right? But the doctor tries to label you and give you medicine, which messes your mind up. And I had to wean myself off of that. It was a mess. Anyway, check out the moon. Now, the moon is sitting right on the tip of the spear of Sagittarius, just about. And coupled with the fact that my sun was right in between the two bullhorns, I just think this is awesome, right? I mean, like, it looks like my astrology was set here to put me at war, right? I mean, I'm just sitting in my house running numbers, but it's pretty obvious that people don't want me sharing this information. I've been told as much by some of these people. So, this is all pretty interesting. And then where's my Saturn? My Saturn is in the constellation of Libra, which is the constellation of justice. This is the only constellation on the zodiac which is not anthropomorphized or does not contain a person. It's an inanimate object, just a scale. And of course, you know, Saturn was one of my first focuses when I started this study. And, you know, I'm just trying to bring a little balance back to the world. The public has been kept in the dark about what's happening for so long now that this stuff needs to be corrected. And look at Saturn on the ecliptic. Saturn is at 233 ecliptic longitude. That's pretty interesting. 233. The word Gematria in Jewish Gematria equals 233. So, if you ask me, that stuff's pretty interesting. And, again, it just seems like, you know, more signs pointing to the fact that some of this is definitely organic, right? So, anyway, one of the people who reached out to me said that they had an illness, a very bad illness many years ago, and he had reached out to an astrologer. And the astrologer only asked for his birth date and where he was born and the time of day on which he was born. I don't even know if he asked for his name. I can't remember. And that guy told him when he got sick without knowing. He also told him when he would get better. And he was right, like to the day. He was correct. So I do think that there's a pretty good possibility that astrology can be used for predictions. When you look back in the ancient times, you know, Rome, Greece, a lot of these leaders, even up through, I think, the 1800s, at least publicly, they had personal astrologers. Think about that for a second. A world leader with a personal astrologer. So they're probably telling them, you know, which days are good to do certain things. And me personally, I'm a little careful about, you know, looking at the numbers and then making decisions based on that. It seems like stuff happens by the numbers anyway. So I just live my life, and people enter my life by the numbers. Things that occur to me happen on significant dates. It's just how the world works, and I enjoy that. You know, I don't want to sit here and figure out the numbers and then decide a date, but maybe there's something interesting there. So maybe we can predict the script. I don't know. Christian B asks, what's my opinion of the moon? Well, I guess it's interesting you ask, right? So, talking about Gematria, my last name, Tikori. Notice how this sums to 99 and 90. A lot of my work is centered around the moon. The moon equals 99 and 90. My opinion on the moon is that, geez, I don't know how to phrase this, guys. The moon. Well, first of all, if you look at the moon and read up the explanations that scientists currently have for how the moon got there and what it is and what it's made of, it doesn't make any sense. There's no agreement on what happened. Some people say an asteroid hit the Earth, and suddenly we got this perfectly round object that's orbiting the Earth. It's the exact same size as the sun from our perspective. That is completely ridiculous to me. Another thing that's really bizarre about the moon is the craters on the moon. Almost all of the craters of the moon are basically the same depth, regardless of the size of the crater or the width. And this doesn't stand to reason. If some of these meteors that hit the moon were so much larger than others, then why aren't the craters deeper in some areas, even though they're much wider? So when we talk about the moon as a satellite, right? I mean, technically the words have the same definition, satellite and moon. I think the moon does operate as a satellite. I believe that, I mean, think about this too. The moon, 90 and 99. Reality equals 90 and 99. In the Kabbalah, the first sphere above Malkuth, which is the world, the manifested reality, is Yeshad, which represents the moon. In the Kabbalah, it's essentially saying that the moon is projecting our reality into our world. And behind the moon, there are 8 other spheres through which other things occur. And these are all results of your spiritual journey. And your spiritual journey is channeled through the moon, projected into this reality. It's it's kind of a strange thing to say, but that's kind of how I see it. Our reality would not exist without the moon, because without the moon, the Earth would not be spinning at the speed it does. It would not be tilted at the axis it's at. There's so many things that the moon is affecting that allow us to live and breathe on this world. Without it, the world would be spinning too fast for an atmosphere to be contained. So I think the occult and those in high levels of Freemasonry, I think they probably have an understanding that the moon is very, very special and it's not a natural object. The fact that the moon is the exact same size as the sun from our perspective here on Earth, also the moon's orbital period of 29.5 days, much like how Saturn orbits the sun in 29.5 years, there's far too many coincidences in astrology to make me think that they're coincidences. There is a level of design behind this. So when you watch the movie Star Wars, and especially Episode 3, where they make a special point to paint the moon as the Death Star as this moon in the sky that looks eerily similar to the size of the moon as we see it from Earth. I don't think that's a mistake. I think that's a little bit of truth in fiction. I think the moon is what we would call an artificial construct. And when you start talking about that, you start thinking about the people who are running our federal government, these people who are currently running the mainstream media, who are trying to invert reality. They're trying to subvert our senses as human beings. They're trying to turn man into woman. They're turning woman into man, turning beauty into ugliness, turning ugliness into beauty. They're trying to flip everything upside down, and they're fucking with our heads while they do it, doing things like the Mandela effect. It's my belief that some of these films from which we believe we have the Mandela effect, all of this is constructed artificially. So, for instance, they'll show you one movie in the theaters from the 80s, but then when they release it to tape, they'll change a scene, and they'll call it the Mandela effect. Things have changed. At least that's my perspective. Chick-fil-A has been guilty of this. And I've had people reach out to me who have agreed with my assessment on Chick-fil-A, which is that at some point they were either advertising a different spelling of their name or completely operating under a different spelling, regardless. So when you talk about the idea that the moon could be a construct, then you're also looking at the idea that, if that's a construct, what else in our reality is a construct? Could the people in our world be a construct of sorts? And I think the reason the Bible has survived this long and lasted through all these years, and the fact that so many people are still reading it and paying attention to it, is because the Bible codes this knowledge into it, so to speak. So, are these people in government, are they the same type of humans we are? I don't necessarily believe so. I am very open to talking about and exploring what's going on, because if I was in that position of power, me personally, it's tricky considering myself a Christian because I cannot logically and realistically align myself with the same beliefs as a lot of people who call themselves Christians and go to church, but I do believe in Jesus Christ and the Christ consciousness. And look, at a core level, I believe that that's really what's going to save our souls out of this place and lead us to an understanding of what we're living in. But I understand that being religious also drives a lot of people away. That's kind of too bad, but at the same time, I'm just talking about my own experiences. And when I asked for Jesus Christ to enter my life, I received some spirit, for sure. Physically, I felt it. Mentally, I felt it. My life changed after that. There's no doubt about it. So for me, if I was in a position of power, you would never see the type of corruption and bullshit that's going on. I'm not going to try and invert people's sense of reality and turn the lower classes against each other. I would try and lift everybody up, and a lot of people watching this channel would too. Most people in this world would, because most people are good at the core. But the people that we're seeing carry out these rituals and operate in the federal government, they are not good at their core. There's no way. And it's like, are these people just made differently? I don't know. But either way, they got to be removed from power. It's just a matter of how do we get enough people awake to what's happening to do that? Because even conspiracy theorists, for the most part, are asleep. They'll say 9/11 was an inside job, JFK was assassinated by the government. But most people won't say Sandy Hook was a hoax. They won't say we didn't go to the moon. I think more people are saying that recently, but that's where we're at. So as far as astrology goes, yeah, maybe it can be predicted. Maybe we can predict things in life. And it's just that knowledge is hidden. So thanks to you, Christian B, for calling it the most important website on the internet. What's so fascinating about Gematria to me is that there are so many people that I'll talk to this about, and it just goes right over their head. Or it'll go in one ear and just rocket out the other ear. They're just blind to it. They completely cannot comprehend it. And many people tell me as much as that. They're like, oh, this is kind of cool, but there's no meaning to it, so it doesn't mean anything to me. All right, well, fine. Don't try to understand it then. But then on the other hand, the people who do understand it and see this and engage in these discussions are very heavily into it, just as I was when I first discovered it. When I first discovered it, I was blown away by what Zach was sharing, but without my own efficient way to practice Gematria, I just had to take his word for it, and that wasn't good enough for me. That's why I went ahead and used my programming skills to build an Excel app, which then turned into a website. Because I didn't like the tools that were available, so I had to look at it myself. And what that resulted in, I'm going to share my full screen again. I did things like this. When I first started studying Gematria, before I made the website, I made the Excel application. And I created a program that ran the Gematria on lists of words and phrases. So I ran the Gematria on all the dates on the calendar. I said, if this code is true, then, and Freemasonry developed our calendar in accordance with the Jesuit order, then all of these, we're going to find alignments in the calendar. I also thought that we would find alignments with numbers and how we spell our numbers. And sure enough, I found all sorts of interesting things with the spelling of our numbers. This is what led me to conclude that Gematria was legit. It wasn't necessarily only observing the news stories. Observing the news stories after gaining more knowledge from this study did clear a lot of it up. So this is what really launched me into it. And now I've also Gematrinated the entire Bible, right? And I just want to point to something that I came across today. A lot of people have been talking about the Super Bowl and how there was a biblical riddle in it because we had the greatest of all time, or GOAT, Tom Brady, defeating the Rams in the Super Bowl. The score was 13-3. Well, Daniel 8 in the Bible tells the story of the GOAT versus the Ram. And a lot of people pointed this out. Hey, check it out. There's a biblical riddle here, right? My first thought was to check the gematria of the first verse of Daniel 8. And look at this. It has a gematria value in the alphabetic order of 1303, just like the score of the Super Bowl. So again, this is the kind of thing where it's like, okay, obviously there's something going on with gematria here. So yeah, as far as Rico telling me this was preordained for me and this is my life path, I mean, I already knew there was something going on with the numbers. When I found these numbers in my name and my birth dates and stuff, it lit a fire in me. And I know that this is probably the main reason I'm on this earth. You know, it's kind of a weird thing to say, right? I mean, I'm only 33 years old. I hate to think that, well, I do like to think that I've figured out why I'm here and that I'm carrying out my life's work. Like, I truly believe that. And that is a feeling that I feel so blessed to have. I can't describe how fulfilling that's made my life. You know, even up through early 2016, I had occasional bouts with depression. Didn't want to get up, had nothing to do, had no meaning in my life. And that was, after I broke up with my long-term ex. And, things weren't going the best for me. At that time, I was searching for truth, and I started to get down on what I was discovering because I realized how messed up the world is. But then when I found Gematria, it occurred to me, hey, there's so much here for me to discover. Gematria was essentially an untapped study. Zach Hubbard was doing great work on it, but he was only scratching the surface. And I realized that once I looked at these other ciphers and started looking at everything across the board, this was just an endless rush of information, and it became an obsession, clearly. And when I grew up, I had severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. It was bad enough that I've watched documentaries about people with OCD, and they did not compare to what I had. I mean, I spent hours trying to get into bed one night. I would flip the light switch, by exponents of 2. If it didn't feel right, I would flip it 2 times, then 4 times, then 8, then 16, 32, 64, 128. 256 times I would turn the light off in my bedroom. I was crazy as a kid. And, I was always looking for things to satisfy that obsessive-compulsive disorder. And when I was older, I came across music, right? When I was 20, 21. So, where's my, oh, geez, I just want to point out to you guys. I'm trying to find I do have a SoundCloud page with some of my songs on it. But anyways, I was a musician for several years. I moved out to California, wanted to live the dream out there. When I lived in California, I only stayed out there for a few months. I had a very weird sense about the people I was meeting out there. Something was very wrong with that place. And what I realized is that I was being spiritually deflected from California. My work was back here, eventually discovering gematria and learning numerology. So, yeah, I have no doubt that... But anyways, the thing with music is that it gave me an outlet for that obsessive-compulsive disorder. I was making my notes. Everything was mathematical. Everything had to be right on the beat. It was very satisfying, But that disorder that I had, or what they called was a disorder, just went unsatisfied for so many years. And then I found Gematria, and no other obsession I had before Gematria lasted more than like a year. I'd be heavy into it, I'd be a nut, I'd be a maniac, and then I would fall out of it. But here we are, 2.5 years after I found Gematria and started studying it, and I'm still as invigorated as I ever was. So, yeah, man, this is what I'm here for, and I'm just I just hope that my work reaches enough people that it can change their lives for the better. Because, a lot of people that I talk to in my personal life, I'll share this information with, and they're like, oh, no, this is scary. I don't want to see this. And they look away. They turn their eyes off, and they close their eyes. They see no evil. They hear no evil. They speak no evil. But this knowledge is what sets us free. This is very empowering, because what you realize is that a lot of the bad shit that's happening in the world isn't really happening. And if it is, it's happening because of not randomness, but as the result of, evil people with a plan or whatever. So as far as you and I going outside, going to a bar, going to a concert, we're probably pretty safe. They've certainly instilled the fear of mass shootings in a lot of people in this country, and I'm sure that's why a lot of people don't go anywhere. But in reality, those of us who know this information know that we are safe out in the world. And, if we are taken by some sort of accident, it's going to happen by the numbers, and it was probably meant to happen. So you just got to live your life and try and change other people's lives for the better, and that's all we can do. So I'm just trying to catch up on the chat here. Josh Berry points out, hey, as someone who shares my astrological sign of Gemini, we're not bipolar. We just have two personalities. That's our astrology. And it's funny. I totally agree with that. I've met many Gemini who have similar traits that I do, as far as just having, different personalities or different work ethics. I don't necessarily think I have two personalities, but I do have days on which I'm very productive and days on which I'm not. I like this. Billionaires use astrology, not millionaires. A quote from a Rockefeller. I've read that quote too, Hermetic Wolf, asking what fun is it to know everything? Isn't it good if there's surprises? I kind of feel you on this, right? This is why I don't really do things by the numbers in my life. I guess there's a couple examples where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this on this time or on this date, but I generally don't. And that's part of the reason, is because I want to live life and experience things and then see how it was coded and whether or not it was meant to be, or if there's some sort of riddle there. That kind of stuff really interests me. And when I meet somebody, a lot of people will go on Facebook, right, and start like poking around their pictures and look at where they work and this kind of stuff. All I do is look at people's birthdays, and I measure from their birthday to my birthday and stuff like that, and the dates on which I met them. That's the kind of reality I'm living in, and to me, that's super interesting. Josh Berry also says, oh, you still believe in ball Earth. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't prove it. I got into a nice little back and forth yesterday with my people on Discord, which we do every month, and it's all friendly. But this is the thing, this is what I don't like about the whole flat Earth thing, right? So I insinuated that I believe in the globe Earth, right? And this guy says, holy crap, you still believe in the ball Earth. It's not, oh, can we talk about ball Earth? It's that he gets mad when I mention ball Earth, right? Why do you get mad when someone doesn't have the same belief in something that's completely inconsequential, such as the shape of the Earth? And if you think it's somewhat consequential, but again, we're all on the same side, guys. We're all looking for the truth. If the Earth turns out to be flat and it gets proven, fine, I'll change my mind. I have questions that cannot be answered as far as the Earth being flat, and those questions will never be answered, like how the sun stays the same size in the sky from every perspective and moves at the same speed from every perspective. This means the sun is very far away, and if it's very, very, very far away, then everyone on a flat Earth could see it. So these are logical fallacies that I cannot accept a flat Earth with. Are there hidden truths about the Earth that we don't know about? Absolutely. I believe that. I believe we live in a realm. I believe the Creator who made this Earth made it so that we do experience it as a flat plane. The Earth is just large enough that we cannot see curvature from where we're at. So, you always want to argue about flat Earth, and I like to have a discussion here and there, but until someone can answer my questions, I'm not going to sit here and talk about flat Earth. Because to me, again, it's inconsequential for my work. A spinning and wobbling floating ball. Yeah, you guys just don't get it. And that's the thing. It's like anytime someone mentions flat Earth, it just starts off this whole fucking chain reaction. And this is exactly what they want, right? They want every conversation to be derailed by flat Earth. Remember when Zach Hubbard launched All for Truth, right? Those two guys approached him and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll build your website. And they did an amazing job really quickly. Well, look what happened to that website. It got immediately derailed by flat Earth contests and discussions. Every thread turned into a flat Earth debate. And flat Earth debate usually makes everybody mad on both sides. They know that. That's why the PSYOP is pushed. So I'm not going to entertain it, okay? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend it. It's silly. And yeah, it's like, yeah, the ball Earth is tilted at 66.6 degrees. Well, 23.4 degrees technically, but that's a measurable fact based on the stars that we see and the North Star. These are facts, guys. This guy says the moon is holographic. Maybe. The universe is holographic. That's probably more accurate. You can't use the United Nations map as a flat Earth. You can't use that as evidence of a flat Earth. I mean, I'm totally on board with saying that everything we know about outer space is probably made up to some extent. You know, guys, I went down to witness the total eclipse, right? I drove down to Marion, Illinois with a buddy of mine, and we saw the total solar eclipse. And nothing that I saw in the sky that day indicated that the measurements we were given about the moon and the sun are wrong. You know, there's just nothing to compare it against. So we can't measure it. And, yeah. I don't know anything about Jordan Sather or Sather. I'm not as well read on all these guys as I should be, probably. And this is another thing flat earthers tell me all the time. They assume that I just haven't looked at it enough. Guys, I've spent dozens of hours watching flat earth videos, and I was never convinced. And the questions I have were never answered. So please respect the fact that I didn't buy it, okay? That's all I ask. It's like, it's a satanic lie. Okay, well, I still believe in God, so I preach that, you know, Jesus Christ is real and the spirit of Jesus is real. It's just like, pick your battles, man. Yeah, I knew I should just like avoid mentioning flat earth at all. So I did want to talk about one special post that I made. Oh, actually, speaking of the moon and the sun, before I talk about this whole Northwoods Mall shooting and the death of Peter Tork, which is related, believe it or not, I want to talk about Israel launching a lunar lander. Well, of course, to the moon. That's the only place a lunar lander would go. And this lunar lander is called Bereshit. Bereshit, of course, the first word in Genesis, meaning in the beginning. If you think about the word Bereshit, it sounds a lot like bullshit, doesn't it? Now, Bereshit, because the B is capital, in our Francis Bacon cipher, where the B gets 28 instead of 2, the word Bereshit equals 113. The word bullshit equals 113 in the reverse alphabetic order. What about Jewish gematria? I mean, we are talking about Israel, after all, home of the Jews. 449 is a prime number. It's the 87th prime number. Bereshit, using the alphabetic order, equals 87. So there's two connections to the word bullshit in Gematria, and it kind of sounds like bullshit. Or maybe like how an Asian guy might say bullshit. No offense, of course. And if I'm ever accidentally racist, it's towards Asians because I have 3 half-brothers who are Asian, all right? So there's that. Bereshit was launched to the moon on the Falcon Heavy rocket. Falcon Heavy equals 49. It's scheduled to land on April 11th, which is a span of 49 days after takeoff. 49 has a prime factorization of 7 times 7. Bereshit took off 49 years, 7 months, and 7 days after the launch of the moon mission. The date of the launch was February 22nd, written 2/22. This is also a span of 222 days after the U.S. sent man to the moon for the first time. That launch took place on the date July 16th. In Gematria, fake moon landing equals 69. 20th of July, the date of the moon landing, equals 69. So does July 20th, 69. Of course, it was the year 69. It was also in the period of Cancer. The moon is ruled by Cancer, and the astrological symbol for Cancer is 69. And now we're seeing the launch of the Bereshit lander, which equals 69. In the reverse alphabetic order, National Aeronautics and Space Administration equals 666. What I like about this is that in Satanic Gematria, where Satanic Gematria equals 666, the number of the beast, fake moon landing equals 666, right? Bereshit lander equals 666. This launch also took place 5 months and 7 days before the anniversary of NASA. The word moon equals 57 in ordinal. Also, the nation of Israel, who launched this rocket, was founded on May 14th, 1948. From May 14th to the date of this launch is February 22nd. In Gematria, Israel equals 44. A good day for them to send a rocket to space, which equals 44. Remember, Zion also summing to 44. So you guys are still talking about flat Earth. It's so silly. Again, I'm trying to tell you guys, you're being manipulated into getting angry about this because both sides are convinced they're right. That's the beauty of the flat Earth argument for Masonry, so to speak. You know, whatever the other side is that's trying to interject division into the truth community. That's exactly what's happening. And, you know, Patty Mills says critical thinking is important, and it is. And look, for those of you who are saying that I'm an idiot for believing the globe Earth, they're like, oh, how did you make it to Gematria and still think the Earth is round, right? And that's just funny. Like, you guys got to realize, I have a lot of friends in real life, right? No, I've had conversations about flat Earth with them, and none of them can even conceive how it's possible. Neither can I. Now, look, you know, and it's not like I found Gematria. Like the reason that most of you guys are studying Gematria and looking at it is because I made the website. I did not know how to make a website before I built this calculator. I had a functioning calculator that was way better than any calculator online in one day, okay? And I say this because I'm pointing out the fact that chances are I'm smarter than you. And that sounds really, really egotistical to say, and it probably is. But keep in mind, like, I'm not an idiot, okay? I don't come to conclusions because I make errors all the time in my judgment. Do I make mistakes? Am I wrong sometimes? Yes, but my brain cannot freaking compute how the Earth could possibly be flat and still have all the way, the flights in the southern hemisphere operate like they do. It just doesn't work with me, all right? So, I mean, again, like, I'm not trying to be an ass. I know that's how it comes across. But, you know, how many websites did you guys build in one day without knowing any coding? I knew Excel coding, but good luck taking VBA and turning it into JavaScript, PHP, and CSS in the same day. Like, you guys got to realize I'm pretty smart, Yeah, one day I bought the website, and by midnight I had a functioning calculator without knowing any coding. So I don't bring this up very often because I don't like hubris. I don't like swinging my dick out there showing you guys how strong and smart I am. But when you guys call me idiots for believing the Earth is a globe, I'm gonna defend myself, okay? I was an accomplished student for many years until I realized school was bullshit. I won all the spelling bees except like one or two that I participated in all these years. Not an idiot. Hermetic Wolf built his first website when he was 12, so he's smarter than me. That's pretty good, man. I never built a website until I was 13, and I was typing HTML at the time. I was making websites for wrestling video games. Remember WWF Attitude, Warzone? I was writing websites from scratch with no help, just writing code. And I figured it out on my own when I was 13, So you can't come at me with this idiot stuff, like, oh, you didn't look at Flat Earth. Oh, I looked at Flat Earth. Oh, yes, I did. And I realize what it is. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry we can't agree on everything. All right, guys. So we're going to put that stuff behind us, right? Because, again, it's divisive, and some of what I said even is divisive. Saying I'm smarter than you. Maybe I'm not, right? Yes, I am. Maybe I am brainwashed. Here's the thing, right? If NASA told people that the Earth was flat, no one would ever believe NASA about anything. The people who do believe the Earth is flat, you don't realize how much of a minority you are, So that's why the NASA doesn't perpetuate flat Earth. They say the Earth is a globe so that people will believe them on other stuff. Jared, if you're asking, did I code the Gematrinator? Yes, I made this website. I wrote everything from scratch. Had to teach myself to code, but I knew that this needed to be done, so I did it because no one else was doing it. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about this very, very bizarre story. In North Charleston, South Carolina, it said that there was a shooting at Northwoods Mall. However, no one was injured. No one was killed. Everything was fine. They're still looking for the suspects, but for whatever reason, this was a national news story. So there's actually two posts that I'm going to be covering here. First, let's discover how the Northwoods Mall shooting was numerically related to Operation Northwoods. What is Operation Northwoods? Most of you who are this deep into the rabbit hole probably know this. Operation Northwoods was a proposed false flag operation developed by the Central Intelligence Agency. This operation would have attacked a U.S. airliner, downing it and blaming it on Cuba in order to start a war so that the citizens would support war. This is basically the definition of evil, right? Government, who the people are supposed to trust, killing their own people so that they can kill more people. This is the epitome of conspiracy. And it's real. Even Wikipedia, acknowledges that. And this wasn't that long ago. This is the 60s. A year before Kennedy was killed, In fact, I think it says, the proposals were rejected by JFK. So this was a serious deal. Now we have a shooting at Northwoods Mall. In the reverse alphabetic order, northwards equals 119. Think about how Operation Northwoods, which involved a false flag attack with U.S. airliners, this is somewhat similar to 9/11, where U.S. airliners were used in a false flag terror attack. That date was the 11th of September, or 11/9. When you look up Operation Northwoods, you find an interesting detail. The Northwoods document was published online in a complete form by the National Security Archive in the year 2001, the same year as the 9/11 attacks. How weird is that? If you measure from April 30th of 2001 to the date of the 9/11 attacks, you get 19 weeks in one day. 191. Like the same three digits that are in Northwoods and 9/11. Measuring from the 9/11 attacks to this coming Tuesday, February 26th, is exactly 911 weeks. Operation Northwoods, this document was published, or printed, I should say, on March 13th of 1962. On the date that we got gunfire at Northwoods Mall, it was 11 months, 9 days after March 13th. How crazy is that? 11/9 once again. Northwoods, 119. Also remember, the number 911 is a prime number. This is the 156th prime number. In Jewish Gematria, false flag equals 156. False flag also equals 33. 33 equals 156 in ordinal. Operation Northwoods was published in the year 1962. In tribute to it, we got a mall shooting, which equals 62. The Operation Northwoods document was printed on March 13th, the 72nd day of the year. Northwoods Mall equals 72 in reverse reduction. In standard reduction, it equals 63. The date on which the shooting occurred, 2 plus 22 plus 20 plus 19 equals 63. Also check this out. Northwoods equals 151, which is the 36th prime number. It also equals 61, which is the 18th prime number. And the date numerology of the shooting had 36 and 18. There's also an alignment with the mayor of North Charleston, the city in which Northwoods Mall exists. First, let's start with the gematria of Operation Northwoods, which equals 102. When the National Security Archive published the document online, it was the 120th day of the year. The 12th prime number is 37. The date of that publication had a life lesson number of 37. Now we get a shooting at a mall. Shooting equals 37. The mayor of North Charleston, where Northwoods Mall sits, was in office for exactly 3 years and 7 weeks. Also 37 months. That mayor's name is R. Keith Sumney. Or is it Summy? I wonder if I got it right. It is Summy. Okay, I got it right in the post. R. Keith Summy equals 157, which is the 37th prime number. You see what's going on, guys? So now let's talk about this. This is where it gets super weird, as if most of my videos aren't super weird to begin with. On February 21st, we had the passing of Monkees bassist Peter Tork. The Monkees were a rock band in the 60s, kind of developed to play off the success of the Beatles. Peter Tork is the second member of the Monkees to die. The first one was frontman Davy Jones, who died on Leap Day in 2012. How could it be possible that the death of these Monkees musicians is related to Operation Northwoods? Well, we're about to find out. In Jewish Gematria, the word monkeys equals 230. The shooting at Northwoods Mall was 230 days before the anniversary of the Monkees' debut album called The Monkees. The 23rd prime number is 83. If you measure from the death of Davy Jones on February 29th, 2012, to the death of Peter Tork of the Monkees, you get 83 months and 23 days, like how 83 is the 23rd prime. The word murder equals 83. But check this out. South Carolina was founded on the date May 23rd, 1788. Measuring from the date of their founding to the date of the shooting at the mall was 230 years, 8 months and 30 days. Look at that. Like how 23 is the 8th, or like how the 23rd prime number is 83. Monkeys equals 107. So does the word shooting, 107. You see what's going on? Let's solidify this. Peter Tork died on February 21st, which is the date leaving 313 days in the year. This was also a span of 313 days before Davy Jones's birthday. Operation Northwoods was published on the date March 13th, written 313. And here is where it goes from evidence to proof. Measuring from the date of this Operation Northwoods document, March 13th, 1962, to the date of the shooting at the mall is exactly 20,800 days. In reduction, monkeys equals 28, Peter equals 28, the name Tork with the master number exception equals 28. His full name is Peter Halston Thorkelson, which equals 280 in the alphabetic order. The word kill equals 28 in reverse reduction. So within a day of Peter Tork dying, who's littered with 28 in his ordinal and reduction gematria, we get these Northwoods events exactly 20,800 days apart. There's a little more. When Operation Northwoods was printed, Peter Tork was exactly 241 months old. 241 is the 53rd prime number. The shooting at the mall happened on the 53rd day of the year. And when Tork died, it was 53 days after Davy Jones's birthday. Davy Jones has Jewish gematria of 1890. Would you believe the gematria of Northwoods Mall? 189 ordinal, 189 reverse. Also notice the 63, like how it happened on a date with 63 numerology. Also 72 in reverse. The name Jones equals 63 and 72 in reverse. Also, the date of the shooting at the mall had the exact same numerology as the date on which Davy Jones died. So Operation Northwoods was printed in 1962. The Monkees were founded in the year 1962. The Monkees were founded by a man named Bob Rafelson. Peter Tork died on this man's birthday. 62 is the gematria of David Thomas Jones, the first member of the Monkees to die, 62. His bandmate, Peter Tork, went on to die on a date with full numerology of 62, 2 plus 21 plus 20 plus 19. Remember, sacrifice, 62. So Peter Tork dies on the date 2/21, which is the birthday of Bob Rafelson. Well, the Monkees had a second founder named Bert Schneider. Bert Schneider equals 2/21. Bert Schneider was born on May 5th, written 5/5. Then he died on a date with 55 numerology. Sacrifice equals 55. Well, his partner, Bob Rafelson, equals 55 with the S exception, just like sacrifice. The phrase blood sacrifice equals 86. Peter Tork died on Rafelson's 86th birthday. The word human sacrifice also 86. Next, we're going to talk about the order out of chaos code, which is very clearly present here as well. Let's start with the name Tork, which sums to 19 and 26. These are the same numbers found in chaos, 19 and 26. Tork's death fell exactly 19 weeks after the release of the Monkees' 13th album. Yes, they're still recording and releasing music. Peter Tork's full name equals 314 in the reverse alphabetic order. This is the first three digits of pi, 3.14. His last full day alive was the date that leaves 314 days on the calendar. That's February 20th. Now, if you measure from Peter Tork's birthday in 1942 to this date with the 314, you'll find he was 77 years and 7 days old. 777 is the first number when you don't use the word and to sum to 314. $777 is the value of numeric ritual. Also, order out of chaos equals 777. If you multiply 7 times 7 times 7, you get a product of 343. The Monkees equals 343. The mayor of Charleston, not North Charleston, but Charleston. We covered the mayor of North Charleston in the last post. The mayor of Charleston was in office for exactly 3 years and 43 days on the date of the shooting. The date of the shooting was February 22nd, written 2/22. Order out of chaos equals 222 in the reverse alphabetic order. South Carolina was founded on the date leaving 222 days in the year. Measuring from the birthday of Davy Jones to the birthday of Peter Tork, the two members of the Monkees to have died, it's exactly 202 weeks and 2 days. Also notice how order out of chaos equals 78. Operation Northwoods was printed on a date with 78 numerology, 3 plus 13 plus 62. And in that same method, South Carolina equals 78. There's more connections here too. Notice this. Notice how the Monkees equals 115. This is the gematria of killing 115. Davy Jones equals 115. Peter Tork equals 115. In the standard alphabetic order, killing equals 74. The 74th prime number is 373. The 373rd prime number is 2549. And measuring from the deaths of Davy Jones to Peter Tork, they died exactly 2,549 days apart. Peter Thorkelson also has more numeric alignments to South Carolina. They just continue to pile up. So, I mean, what's going on there? Like, what of that is natural? What of that is organic? You know, earlier on in the video, I talked about how there was a ritual executed by college basketball that may have resulted in the death of some person. And how would that work here? Did they kill somebody and then there was a shooting, or is the shooting completely fake? I just have no idea on this one. But it's very clear that there's a connection here between the Northwoods Mall shooting, Operation Northwoods, and the death of this Monkees bassist. The Monkees being founded in the same year that the Operation Northwoods document was printed. All right, so I see the chat has picked up a lot since I last looked. Thanks to Hermetic Wolf for the nice words, man. He's always been very kind. Consider this guy a friend at this point, I guess. You know, some people I don't ever see your faces, but, you know, with enough back and forth, we all kind of know each other. Desi says I should start a cult. Well, that's why this guy's my moderator, right? No, I mean, anytime you tap into something like this, right, and people start following you and taking your word as objective truth, I guess that's where a cult could start, right? I feel like I could if I really wanted to, but I don't have that in me. I always like it when I go through the chat and all I see is like, huh, damn, wow, what? Like that means my work is tripping you guys out, which is the point. It's true, guys. The Sandy Hook shills took my website down. So they did give me 2 days of warning, but the email went to an email address that I don't really use, so I missed it. But remember, Sandy Hook equals 112. Adam Lanza, who weighed 112 pounds, was born on the 112th day of the year. My website was taken down on the date January 12th, written 1/12. They said it was for a copyright strike. That date is also written 12/1. On the date my website was taken down, I was 222 days after my birthday, and this stuck out because last year, my YouTube channel was deleted on February 22nd, written 2/22. And I thought that was weird enough. But if you measure from the date my website was taken down to the Sandy Hook shooting, look at this. It was exactly 2,220 days. How crazy is that? And what's so weird about this is that the post they copyright struck me for because I used an image from a news source, I posted that after my YouTube channel got deleted. So if there was some sort of weird numeric ritual that was being carried out with the idea of 222, I don't think they planned that when they deleted my channel on 222. And like I said, I don't even know if anybody planned it. What of this is natural? Are people really doing things by the numbers to me? I mean, maybe they are. Wow, we got people talking about Nibiru. Oh, boy. I always wonder how it got there. I'm just talking about numbers. And Rebecca, I understand there's significance in the Enoch calendar. However, I'm trying to reach people who do not believe that the Enoch calendar is observed. They only know one calendar, which is the calendar that we use, the Gregorian one. So when I'm trying to wake people up and get through to people, I have to use the basic, most logical tools that they understand or can possibly understand. I have looked at the Enoch calendar, and I do believe it's significant. I may incorporate it into my work at some point. I'll probably incorporate astrology into it before I get there. But I just want to point out I'm not ignoring you, but I have to keep my methods simple so that people I mean, like I said, we're trying to reach as many as we can. I you guys are talking about globe, blah blah blah. I'm not sure, Fernando, that I'm going to be going back to long live streams all the time. I do want to elevate my focus onto making more shorter videos so people can share them and digest them quickly and easily. It's just been a while since I did a long live stream and actually talked to you guys in the chat. And I got some time today before I got to do anything, so I figured why the hell not? I'd maybe jump in and see what you guys are talking about these days. And of course, a lot of people are still talking about flat Earth. That's fine. I just what I think is that a lot of the people who do like the flat Earth are in a bubble of sorts in YouTube. There's tons of flat Earth videos out there. There's hours and days of content with flat Earth, and it's important for people to understand that there are critically thinking, logical people who think the other way as well. And the idea that someone could express shock that I'm not on board with the flat Earth theory, like, that's interesting to me, because in the real world where I generally operate, I don't know anybody who believes in flat Earth. And yes, I've talked to people who have spent hours looking at videos of flat Earth, and nobody believes it. So, I mean, are they all just brainwashed? Maybe, but like I said, it's just not important enough. For me, anyway. I think the Earth is whatever shape you guys think it is. If you want to live on a flat Earth, then you can look out and say the Earth is flat. If you want to live on a globe Earth and be like me, you can look around and not understand how the Earth could possibly be flat, and then you'll carry on and live on a globe Earth. It's just, we can't prove it either way, so until one of you guys can get a rocket and shoot it way, way up into outer space, if that even exists, as far as my observations, I mean, I definitely can tell that we've been to low Earth orbit. If you guys ever want to dive into the moon landing and look at what I think is the best evidence, it's not like forensic evidence, it's more situational evidence. In the movie, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, NASA accidentally gave Bart Sebring, I think that was his name, Sebring or Siebling or whatever, they accidentally gave him video that he wasn't supposed to get. It wasn't for public consumption. And it shows the astronauts. Do you remember the tiny blue orb shot that was supposedly taken from Apollo 11 as they were traveling to the moon? They're like, oh, you can see the ball. It's just a little tiny blue ball. Well, there's footage from NASA that essentially proves that footage was faked. Instead of putting the camera up to the window and filming the Earth, which was really far away, they turned all the lights off inside and created a little circle in the window so that the light that did come through from the window looked like the Earth. And it was obvious. They faked that shot. So even though they were supposed to be halfway to the moon, when they removed the cover from the window, the Earth was right there. It was bright as day. Everything was super bright. They were in low Earth orbit. They never fucking left low Earth orbit because you can't. How does propulsion in a vacuum make sense? You can't do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand everything about it, and I don't claim to. I think when you get high enough up in the atmosphere, apparently there's not any gravity, right? People are just flying around there. But if you're saying that space shuttles are all fake and that no astronaut has ever been into space, I think that's a stretch. NASA mixes truth and reality. A lot of the times when they show, astronauts in space, or probably all the time, it's always fake. I don't know if anybody's been in space recently, but it's wild, Sebrel, thank you. Bart Sebrel, Sibrel. But yeah, I agree. We can't leave this planet. The whole idea of traveling to the moon, traveling to Mars. This is entirely absurd. And it'll never happen. It can never happen. But it keeps people thinking that we're just this random cosmic coincidence. We're just stardust that collected and started thinking. And it's all an accident. And when you have people thinking in that fashion, you have a class of people that's much easier to rule over and consume. Yeah, okay. Damon Haynes, you brought up Marty Leeds. Marty Leeds is one of those guys, you know, he does share some truth. But you can't put a whole lot of faith into everything he's sharing. Just watch it with an open mind, but be critical. You know, I don't play with numbers. I use the same techniques in every video. We run Gematria, we measure dates, and look at numerologies. I do the same thing every single video. That's why people keep coming back to my work. That's why it's so interesting. That's why the people who follow me so ardently. But he doesn't do the same thing in every video. He'll just pull things out of air that seem random. And I don't know. I mean, some of it might be legit, but I don't think a lot of it is. And then couple the fact that he has threatened me with legal action for talking about him on my channel. It's crazy that he's not on the same side we are. And if he is, he's playing it wrong. You know, and I just wonder, I mean, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Marty's been censored off of YouTube before, you know, so, but they'll censor their own guys too. You know, this is all about mixing truth with reality. So if there's misinformation out there, and people, like, for instance, there's a Plain Truth, right? That YouTube channel got taken down. And a lot of people came to me and they're like, oh, why would they take the website down if the Earth's not flat? See, the Earth is flat. And it's like, guys, that's not evidence the Earth is flat. That's just evidence that the channel got taken down. Like, you can't necessarily derive the intent of the action from the action itself. So that's true. He did make a video that I think he knew was getting censored because he, like, so blatantly talked about the Jews. Now, for me, my channel, I don't really talk about the Jews too much. I talk about Jewish Gematria and how Gematria is a Jewish practice. We're foolish to assign a particular religion to the elites that are controlling things. To call out Jews is wrong because most Jews don't even know about what I'm talking about, Gematria. That's just a fact. They don't. You know, a lot of people at the top are Jewish. Obviously, there's an imbalance of wealth with Jewish people claiming to be the victims, but, you know. And another thing I differ on a lot of truthers with is that I believe the Holocaust happened. I think the numbers they gave us with the Holocaust are a complete lie. But the types of Jews that are running the world don't care about the normal Jews who are just believing in Judaism, going to church, and living good lives. So they'll kill those people too. They don't care. They'll starve them. Me personally, I'm a quarter Jewish, like ethnically. My grandfather was Jewish. He slept with my grandmother. When he found out she was pregnant, he left and never came back. He went off and had his own family with a Jewish woman. And that family is all fairly well off. They had very good educations, and they do all right. My mom grew up poor, you know. So perhaps that's part of the reason I'm drawn to this. You know, a lot of you guys know about Zach Hubbard's work. Zach Hubbard also has a grandparent who was Jewish who he never met. And that's because that's how these people operate. You know, they'll go and they'll play around and they'll fool around with the Goyim, but when it comes to making a family with them, they won't do it. That's against their religion, you know. My grandfather, by the way, we found out that he died at the age of 58. I always thought that was interesting. He wasn't in great health. He had a heart attack, so he probably died naturally. But when I met my Jewish relatives, they are traditional, you know, they practice Judaism. I went there and they have records of their relative who died in the Holocaust. Some of their family ended up in those camps. So you'll never hear me sit here and say the Holocaust was a hoax, even though Holocaust equals 33 and 6 million Jews were printed many times. The number 6 million is made up. Absolutely. I have no reason to believe that 6 million Jews died. But a lot of Jews died, So did a lot of Armenians. So did a lot of Ukrainians. You could go on and on. And the fact that we have Holocaust classes and movies and shows always talking about the Holocaust, but not the Armenian genocide, which was just as brutal and awful, if not worse. These are problems in our culture, and if you point them out, they'll call you anti-Semitic, which makes zero sense at all. So yeah, those are the false Jews, the ones ruling the world at end times. And maybe this is end times, maybe our whole life is an end time. Really don't know. Oh my God, I forgot about this post, guys. Desi, thank you for reminding me, especially if they're midgets. Jewish midgets. Let's talk about Jewish midgets. Let's offend everybody, right? Let's not just offend one group of people. Let's offend everybody. Talking about the Holocaust, and this is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, the Holocaust was real, or at least a Holocaust happened, and a lot of Jewish people died. But this is the kind of shit that's just made up in theater, right? There's this story about the Ovitz family. The Ovitz family, they were Jewish, Hungarian Jews, who ended up in Auschwitz. And look how happy these people look. They don't look like they're in a concentration camp where they're at risk of getting gassed, do they? They're pretty happy people. And it just so happens that they're all related, right? This is the largest family of dwarves ever recorded. Do you really think all these people are related? I don't know. Maybe they are. So this is some funny shit, guys. First of all, their name is Ovitz. Ovitz equals 92. The other accepted alternate spelling of dwarfs is dwarves. Dwarves equals 92. In reverse, dwarves equals 97. Their home county in Romania, which was in northern Transylvania at the time, both equal 97. This Wikipedia article is called Ovitz family. Ovitz family equals 158. And they told us that the ages of the family were 15 to 58 years old, right? How funny is that? 15 to 58, like 158. The oldest person was 58. Midget equals 58. Also, Ovitz family equals 58. And this is where it gets really funny, guys. I mean, this is so funny. The Ovitz family was admitted to Auschwitz on May 12, 1944. There were a total of 7 dwarfs in the family. You got to be kidding me, right? 7 dwarfs? So let's look at Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, which came out in the year 1937 in England, I think it is. Measuring from the release of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs to the date that these people were admitted to the camp was 333 weeks and 3 days. That's a lot of threes. Now, what if you measure from the U.S. opening date to the date that these midgets were admitted, the 7 Dwarfs? You get a span of exactly 2,290 days. The camp that this family was admitted to, Auschwitz to Birkenau, equals 229 and 333 with the capital letters taken into account. I mean, this is some funny shit. The 7 Dwarfs admitted to Auschwitz in alignment with the movie The 7 Dwarfs? How can you not find humor in this? And this is why my heart's not filled with hate. At least there's some humor going on here. I can just only hope that they're not killing as many people as I think they might be. Also, notice how Snow White equals 136 and 46. 7 Dwarfs, 136 and 46. How great is that? When I started looking at the Ovitz family, I found it was this guy who discovered them, Joseph Mengele. Look at this. This is a trip, guys. You're going to love this one, too. This guy was known as the Angel of Death. He was the Nazi scientist who conducted deadly human experiments on people and tortured them to death and did all this stuff. And whether or not that happened, I'm skeptical. I'm actually very skeptical because of the numerology around this guy. It's so funny. First of all, his name, Joseph Mengele, or Mengele, I don't know, sums to, it sums to 53 in reduction and 55 in reverse. His nickname was the Angel of Death. 53 and 55. So that's cool. Joseph Mengele equals 116. That's the reduction value of Auschwitz concentration camp, where this man was employed. If you turn the number 116 upside down, it shows as 911. Joseph Mengele, or Mengele, was born in 1911. In Satanic Gematria, ritual human sacrifice equals 911. And then let's look at where he was born. Günzburg, Bavaria, Germany equals 119 in reverse reduction, like the reverse of 911. This man was from Germany. Germany equals 38. The word death equals 38. Remember, killing and murder, both 38 as well. This man's birthday is the date 16/3, like how the 38th prime number is 163. The angel of death, born on 16/3. When he died, it was the 38th day of the year. February 7th. The year was 79. Murder equals 79 and 38. Now, if you measure from the date he was born, March 16th, 1911, to the date that he died, he was exactly 24,800 days old. Human sacrifice equals 248 in reverse. In ordinal, human sacrifice equals 130. Auschwitz equals 130. It's said that 6 million Jews died during the Holocaust. 6 million Jews equals 67. Just like blood sacrifice, 67. Human sacrifice, 67. When Joseph Mengele died, he was 67 years old, and he was 329 days after his birthday. Ritual human sacrifice equals 329. In ordinal, ritual sacrifice equals 211. This man worked at Auschwitz-Birkenau, which equals 211. Ritual sacrifice equals 154. In the year 1954, he fled to Argentina, which equals 154. And then the city in which he died, Bertioga, Sao Paulo, Brazil, equals 244 in ordinal. That's the Hebrew gematria of kill, 244. So how funny is this article? I mean, to get this Jewish pack of midgets from Hungary. I just said Hungary. Wow. I'm going to have to wrap this stream up, guys. I'm starting to misspeak. But yeah, for the family from Hungary to this guy who's coded with all the numbers of ritual sacrifice from Auschwitz, it's really funny. Oh, I always hate to come to the chat and see people bickering because I don't know what there is to argue about. Like, the numbers speak for themselves, but you guys are always arguing about something. And yeah, thank Desi for the fucking story about the Jewish midgets. It's just great. I'm not making fun of them at all. I was just trying to figure out what you guys were bickering about. Which name did I butcher this time? Is it that German guy? I have no idea. I know the numbers. I know the letters. I don't know pronunciation. What does pronunciation sum to? Okay, see, I don't have any of these numbers in my name, Jamal. Oh, yeah, I do. 182. Derek Takori, 182. So I should learn better pronunciation. Did someone ban Patty? Who's Patty? Why can't I see any Patty? Oh, wait, here it is. Oh. Well, yeah, I encourage anyone who has great information to start new channels and talk about it. I am kind of wary about an oversaturation of information on the internet. Zach always tells people, or commonly tells people, when you first start discovering numerology, start a blog or something, right? And, yeah, I mean, I support documentation, because without properly documenting what you're researching and experiencing, first of all, it commits it to memory better when you're documenting it, and it also makes it searchable for later. So I guess one of the best ways to do that is to have a blog. I'm just kind of apprehensive about telling everyone to start a blog and infiltrate the internet and saturate it with too much gematria and numerology. Because if there's too much gematria and numerology that's kind of amateur and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you're going to see that a lot of people come across it and then blow it off and never look into it. I would like... Ideally, someone's first encounter with gematria is very logical and solid. And I don't know if my work's the best. Maybe Zach reaches newcomers better than I do. I would probably bank on that. I think some of my work is very well geared towards newbies, but it's still a balancing act, of figuring out, getting to the bottom of the code, and then also making it so people who are new can understand it. Jared, you want me to use my middle name? Well, would you believe that I have two middle names? I actually have a middle initial also. So first of all, I love the 903 in Satanic Gematria, right? This is my full name. I don't care if people know it. Notice how my name sums to 1198 in Jewish Gematria. Before I brought this calculator up online, very, very few people were practicing reverse gematria, and then I started studying it and said it was probably relevant. Reverse gematria equals 1198. Check out my gematria of 203 and 95. Well, first I want to point out that the word birthday equals 604. Guess what my birthday is? That's right, June 4th, written 604. And check out my birth numerology. 23 and 95. My name equals 203, like 23. And 95 in reduction. How cool is that? My life lesson number is 33. 33 is the master teacher number. Teacher equals 33. And if you had told me 3 years ago I would be making videos teaching people about numerology, I would not have believed you. I would have thought you're crazy. But here I am. Also, this 114 numerology, this is my full birth numerology. 114 equals 95, just like my name, just like my other birth numerology. So you know how I talk about the number 1331? I started talking about this number because I found this very strange alignment in Jewish gematria where 133 and 331 sum to 1331. I thought that was pretty wild considering this number is made up of 133 and 331. And then we found out that there was one eclipse, total eclipse, in the year 1331. 1331 eclipse equals 1331, and it was on the date November 30th. which equals 1331. And that's the only total eclipse I've seen to this date that never touched a major body of water. So we know that number is important, right? Well, my dad, his full name sums to 301 and 130 in reverse, like 13 and 31. My full name equals 130. I ended up paying $130,000 for my house exactly, and my address is the year in which my dad was born. How are these coincidences? It can't be. Also, when I discovered Gematria, I found out my number is 337. I was sitting in cubicle A3037 at work. And my first property tax bill on this new house that I bought that I paid $130,000 for, my first ever property tax bill was $3,307 exactly. And that value was calculated off of the value of my house. Do you understand, guys? We're living in an organic matrix. I hope you realize that by now. Just pay attention. This stuff is probably happening to your life too. Yeah, and then, one of my key research partners, Bobby Simpson, his name equals 1331. And then if you take my mom's name, right? If you take her maiden name, and then take her first married name, and then take her next married name to my dad, look at her name. It's 1331. I was born 1 month and 19 days before my mom's birthday. My mom's current name now equals 119. I dated a girl for over 7 years. I met her on the date 11/9, and her name equals 119 in this same method. And then if you measure to my dad's next birthday, he was born, or his birthday is 9 months, 11 days after mine. Remember how I said my birth numerology is 33? The consonants in my name sum to 33. My middle name, Michael, equals 33. The consonants in my last name equal 330. If you multiply 33 times 33, you get 1,089. And I was born exactly 1,089 days after my parents got married. And look at the date on which my parents got married. Numerology of 99. My mom changed her last name to Tikuri, which equals 99 and 90. That date also had 90 numerology. There were 203 days left in the year when my parents got married. I was born on a date with 23 numerology. My full name equals 203. If you measure from my mom's last birthday to their wedding, you get 10 months and 19 days, like how she changed her name to sum to 119. Also, my mom's birth numerology was 48. This is a moon number because the 48th prime number is 223, like the number of synodic months in the Saros cycle. Look at my mom's name. 223. The 48th prime number. This is her full name now. And I started teaching about the moon and the Metonic cycle, and then I figured this out. So there's two main cycles with the moon. We have the Metonic cycle. This is 235 lunar phases. The Saros cycle, on the other hand, is 223 synodic months. And here I am teaching about the moon, and then find out my mom has the 223 ordinal Gematria. And if you measure from my mom's birthday to my dad's birthday, they were born exactly 235 days apart. My dad born on the 74th day of the year. Now I'm teaching Gematria. So it's just endless. The freaking organic synchronicities here are so overwhelming. And, you know, people ask me, like, sometimes, you know, they say, aren't you scared, you know, of sharing this information, putting your face out there and talking about this, speaking truth to power, so to speak? Nuh-uh. I ain't scared of shit. Because look at how all these numbers appear in my own life. What do I have to be afraid of? Like, I'm carrying out my purpose, apparently. So every time I look back, it's like confirmation that what I'm teaching is true. These numbers apparently coded my own life to begin with. So here I am. I feel like I'm on my purpose. I'm on my path. And when you're on that, nothing can stop you, right? Of course, they can try to stop me. They can censor me. They can delete me. I don't know what their plans are. I don't know how far this whole censorship thing is going, but I know that this is what I got to do. So yeah, it's just it's so wild, man. And I don't know. It's pretty cool. You know, a lot of people, this knowledge freaks them out. For me, it's very empowering. And you know, I talked earlier in this about how a couple years ago I used to occasionally suffer from depression, and I don't suffer from that anymore. You know, there's bad days, shit happens in life, but it never reaches like this full-blown sadness, you know. So again, I don't think I would have gotten there without the power of Jesus. Long time ago, I accepted that into my life, and he's given me something to be very, very proud of and something to work for, and no regrets in talking about that. So I'm going to start putting an end to this stream. I've been going on for about 2 hours, so thanks to everybody who jumped in on the chat and contributed during the stream. It was a long one. It was an interesting one, I hope. Hurry, gent. You know, I said earlier I'm hesitant in calling myself Christian because Christianity, what it's defined as through the people who call themselves Christians, and I don't follow a religion or a church. I follow my gut. I follow instincts. And when I was younger, I asked for the Spirit of Jesus. I was with others who, you know, we were in a Bible study, and you know, some might say it's the power of suggestion, but something definitely happened that night. So I'll never turn back and say that Jesus isn't real. You'll never hear me say that. Nope. I've been too blessed. So I can only just hope that everyone gets the same thing from it. And I know that not everybody maybe will, or at least not immediately, but I think in the long run, you will be guided to your purpose through that. And I believe that for everyone. So, thanks for the compliment. Except for the flat earth stuff. What if I'm right? You don't know that I'm not right. Like, but again, you know, the thing about this is that what I hope is that we can agree to disagree. If you want to believe the earth is flat and you believe the evidence you've seen convinces you and that's proof, fine. I don't have a problem with you. If you come to me and say with your proofs, which I've looked at, and none of which, well, some of them are weird because I do believe you can see further over the Earth's curvature than you normally would, but you can't see all the way. You're on my side with flat Earth. Oh, okay. Cool. And not everybody is. And like I said, for those who aren't, fine. I just hope that we can agree to disagree and be able to move on from it. the discussions I have, I don't turn them volatile. I don't get angry. I don't get pissed off because that's just going to piss you guys off. So, um, yeah, I mean, solidarity is key. And the wealthy elites have brainwashed us into losing that solidarity. You know, so much of this agenda of division, we don't even realize, like, even as the process of waking up begins, there's still this element, this wall that keeps us from being able to truly trust someone or gain allegiance with someone. And like I said, even after you realize we're being divided and conquered, we still allow ourselves to be divided and conquered very easily. And even though we're waking up to the same thing, the same types of lies, two people who disagree on the shape of the earth, which is inconsequential for the end game, which is to bring the power back into the people who are good and give a shit about the world, again, that's inconsequential. So the fact that that even can divide people is it's a dark mark on both sides of anyone who lets that affect them. You have to rise above that. You got to rise above your own anger that generates because someone's disagreeing with you. There's just certain, like I said, you got to pick your battles. And you know, I've been another thing too is that some of the flat earthers have told me that flat earth is where I should begin before talking about Gematria. And I so strongly disagree with that because, like I said, I have, you know, I don't want to say like all the people who believe in flat earth are just people who are only on the internet and don't have real friends, because that's not true. But no one I know in real life believes the earth is flat. Everyone has the same questions that cannot be answered as I do. So understand, I mean, none of us really know. And until we know, we can't really like get angry about it. It doesn't make sense. I forgot where I was going with that. I just like talking about it for some reason. I mean, it's fascinating, really. The whole back and forth that happens and how neither side is able to let go, including me. Like, I can't let it go because to me, I feel like I know, right? What the shape of the earth is. It's obvious. But there's other people who think it's obvious it's not. So, I don't know. That's why it's a good thing to divide people with, is because both sides are so convinced they're right. So it's true, man. If you don't pick your battles, you lose the war. Because, so where I was going with that is that I know for a fact that if I go to people and talk about flat Earth first before going to Gematria, I'm going to lose 90 to 95% of my audience immediately. I am going to lose them immediately. And that's just a fact. So, whereas Gematria, I'm going to lose maybe 50% of people immediately, right? And then I'll lose a couple more as I open new ciphers or whatever. But I guarantee you the flat Earth is not going to fly with the average person, because I know what the average person thinks and sees, and no one out there really thinks the Earth is flat. Like, very few people. So, I don't know. I'm just going to wrap it up there. Like I said, I hope we can all agree to disagree. My specialty is Gematria. I'm going to give you guys the numbers, and I want you to share and spread and subscribe and like this stuff so that as many people can wake up to this as possible, so that we have a better understanding of what we are up against in this world. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end the live stream. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday. I had a great time. And, you know, I hope we all learned a little bit about the organic matrix. Hope we learned a little bit about occultic numerology, the moon, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, thanks to everybody. I love each and every single one of you, even if we don't agree on everything. The fact that I have the ability to reach so many people is a blessing, and, you know, there's not a day that goes by where I'm not thankful for it. So, thanks to everybody. And what's up, Tommy? How you doing, man? All right, guys. Peace, love, and God bless. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.